From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. Multiple injuries have been reported in Popayan, Colombia, where the country's Riot squad, ESMAD, entered and attacked students who were holding a peaceful protest. Students at the Faculty of Engineering of Unicauca sought shelter when ESMAD entered, firing tear gas. Students and workers held what they called the final mobilization of the year throughout Colombia to reject the systematic murder of social leaders, against repression, and for educational funding. Graphic images on social media show students with bleeding wounds. And Colombian Senator of the FARC party, Pablo Catatumbo, tweeted a video showing ESMAD forces charging towards students of the University of Cauca. He said that students who had been seriously injured have not received proper medical attention. Catatumbo said, "We demand guarantees for the humanitarian mission." And staying in Colombia, the FARC political party has welcomed the decision of a court to defend the political rights of their jailed leader, Jesus Santrich. The FARC says it will support another member, Benedict Jesus González, to occupy Santrich's seat in the lower house of Congress. It said the court's decision was a triumph not for the FARC party, but for Colombian democracy. Jesus Santrich has spent months in prison since the United States requested his extradition. And police homicide division agents in Brazil have carried out arrest warrants for suspects in the murder of councilwoman and activist Marielle Franco. The warrants were carried out in 15 homes in Rio de Janeiro and Minas Gerais. According to investigations, police were involved in the plot. 9 months have passed since Franco and her accompanying driver, Anderson Gomez, were assassinated on March 15th. And the police in Rio de Janeiro say they have intercepted plans to assassinate another prominent left-wing lawmaker from the PSOL party. Marcelo Freixo, seen here, helping to carry the coffin of Marielle Franco earlier this year, is a member of the state legislature and was a close friend of the councilwoman. The civil police say a right-wing militia planned to kill him this Saturday during an event with trade unionists. They say the same group is also being investigated in relation to Franco's murder. And the president of the Brazilian Workers' Party, Gleice Hoffmann, said it was stunning that Marcelo Freixo was being targeted by the same people who killed Marielle Franco. On Twitter, she said that political violence must not go unpunished or become the norm in Brazil. And Marcelo Freixo himself tweeted, "This is not a threat against me, but against democracy." Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza provided additional details of the U.S.-backed plot to destabilize Venezuela. Arreaza met members of the diplomatic corps in Caracas to present the details of the conspiracy revealed by President Nicolás Maduro on Wednesday and warned of the harm such actions could cause the region. He said the Colombian government needed to explain why hundreds of paramilitaries are being trained in Colombia to overthrow the Venezuelan government.
Imagine that tomorrow there is an attack on a Colombian unit on the border, or an attack on a Venezuelan unit, and let's say that there are Venezuelan soldiers sparking a war to ignite a situation of conflict between Venezuela and Colombia, to later justify international intervention. We are sure that the denouncement that was made yesterday will prevent the carrying out of these attacks. We insist that the government of Colombia, its authorities, and the government of the United States ought to investigate the accusations which have been made.
The minister said that as Christmas approaches, President Maduro wanted to convoke this meeting to ask that foreign delegates could transmit a message to their foreign ministries and to their heads of states.
We want to preventively make this condemnation to avoid the bloodshed of Venezuelans, of Colombians, and any bloodshed on this continent. Respect Venezuelan sovereignty. Respect for the sovereignty of a state like Venezuela should be the most important in relations with Venezuela, just as it should be in relations with any country and any state with another.
Our correspondent in Caracas, Madeleine Garcia, brings us more.
We've heard from Foreign Minister Jorge Ariaza, who said we're just in the nick of time. Just one call, a message, could prevent bloodshed. Once diplomacy breaks down, a war will follow. And that's what Venezuela wants to avoid. And that's the reason for the preventative denouncements made by President Nicolas Maduro in order to prevent any sort of situation. And as the Foreign Minister Jorge Ariaza said to the diplomatic corps, which is accredited here in the country, with these condemnations, they hope that they can halt the plans which are being developed.
We thank Madeleine for that report. And on Wednesday, President Maduro accused the United States of directing the new plot against him. Maduro said that U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton was in charge of the plan to assassinate him and lead a coup against his government. He said Venezuela has evidence that the Colombian government is facilitating the training of Colombian and Venezuelan paramilitaries in the Department of North Santander.
So this plan of John Bolton's has another operational center,
Tolemeida
Air Base in Colombia.
For his part, Colombian President Iván Duque has denied President Maduro's claims, but said it is committed to political and diplomatic action to remove the elected government of Venezuela.
Colombia is under no circumstances planning nor thinking about any hostile action against any country in the region. We won't allow such doubts or accusations to be made. Those accusations must be rejected by all Colombians. And what should be made clear is that those who are exercising dictatorship against their citizens, generating significant migration flows, must respond to international justice.
On Thursday, Russian and Venezuelan pilots and military personnel continued joint military exercises to ensure the defense of Venezuela against external threats. The training sessions included a 10-hour flight over the Caribbean sea waters, as well as their cooperation practices among the pilots of the two nations. According to a report of the Russian Defense Ministry, the flights were carried out in strict compliance with the regulations of the use of the international airspace. The objective is to increase the security measures for both countries.
It was a routine flight. The crews flew more than 8,000 kilometers. All of the tasks were carried out in their entirety.
The flight was carried out over the Caribbean Sea in strict compliance with the international standards, and the patrol was carried out in Venezuelan territory. There were no interceptions during the flight. The combatants, F-16 and Su-30 of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, that carried out the patrol's convoy, arrived to our aircrafts. We completed our tasks while they completed their tasks.
The youth wing of Venezuela's Socialist Party has shown its solidarity with the former Vice President of Ecuador, Jorge Glass. Glass recently suspended a hunger strike he had been on for 52 days from prison to demand that his rights be respected.
Call for justice and respect for the human rights of Jorge Glass. They were a clear sign that Venezuela and Ecuador stand united in the same cause.
President Lenin Moreno not only betrayed Jorge Glass, but he also betrayed former President Rafael Correa and the people of Ecuador. He betrayed Latin Americans who believe in unity and justice, who believe in dignity and respect.
The event was a tribute to the bravery of Ecuador's former vice president, who was sentenced to 6 years in prison back in January. For these Venezuelan organizations, his arrest amounts to political persecution. They demand his release.
Lawfare is taking over Ecuador, and it's become quite notorious. Unfortunately, different bodies of the United Nations have turned a blind eye. No international organization has done anything.
Together, they raised their voice in support of the region's progressive governments, under attack from abroad and at home. For these activists, the government of Lenin Moreno has completely changed the policies that got it elected in the first place, and is now attached to neoliberal interests.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. Members of the migrant caravan have delivered a request to the United States government demanding the removal of Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez and the delivery of $50,000 if the petition of free entry is rejected by the U.S. Migrants, mainly Honduras, organized a protest in front of the United States consulate in Tijuana, where they delivered a letter, giving the U.S. authorities a 72-hour deadline to fulfill their demands. They say if their demands are not met within that time, they will enter into the U.S. territory en masse. Meanwhile, another group belonging to the caravan delivered a second letter. They're asking that the caravan be kept informed about how to ask for asylum in the United States. Our correspondent in Mexico, Pablo Perez, keeps us informed on what's going on in Tijuana.
Well, it's been 24 days since the first members of the migrant caravan arrived here to Tijuana on the Mexican state of Baja California, bordering with the American state of California. And well, once was a 6,000 strong group is now scattered all over the town in different shelters. The biggest one holding up to 2,500 migrants, and well, the rest is in smaller enclaves and encampments all over the city. But something that is very relevant is the statistics that we have received, the numbers we have received from the official agencies, both in the United States and from the Mexican government. The California Border Patrol says that they have detained over 2,100 migrants from Central America origin crossing the border. Let's remember that this is one of the ways for them, the fastest way to to start their application for refugee status, for humanitarian asylum in the United States, to be on North American soil, and then when detained, ask the official for the beginning of their refugee or asylum status process. But on the other hand, it's the Mexican National Migration Authorities say that they have processed over 3,400 applications for asylum here on Mexico. Those are the migrants that are not in a hurry to cross the border. They know it's dangerous, and it's a high-risk process, and there is very low possibilities of their getting asylum in the United States. It's calculated that only under 20% of the applicants are really qualified for asylum. So those 3,400 migrants have applied for asylum in Mexico, and they are taking advantage of the offer by the new Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, that said on December 1st, when he took office, that he will ease the process for Central Americans to ask for asylum on Mexican soil, which will benefit them with the possibility of traveling all over the country and also looking for jobs, and then it can be in the formal market, so they can receive all the benefits on health insurance and the daycares that Mexican workers are supposed to get by law. So a lot of them, those migrants that left their countries in Honduras, Salvador and Guatemala with the idea of crossing the crossing borders until they get to the state. Not now. They are choosing to stay in Mexico. Well, that offers them better conditions and well a lot more possibilities to find what they are looking for.
We thank Pablo Perez for that report, and CARICOM has held talks with Aruba about the Dutch territory's application for associate memberships of the Caribbean bloc. CARICOM Secretary General Erwin Larocque met with Aruba's Prime Minister to determine the benefits the relationships could yield. Aruba currently holds observer status. Heads have also agreed to examine an enlargement policy for CARICOM, which has 15 full members and 5 associate ones.
Ministers of Finance and other heads of delegation.
And Barbados is mourning the loss of one of its musical and cultural icons. Veteran calypsonian Don Marshall has passed away. Sir Don, as he was fondly known, died in his sleep earlier on Thursday. He was known for his hard-hitting calypso commentary, a stalwart of Crop Over Festival. The 4-time calypso monarch also excelled as a writer, composer, and calypso analyst. The lyrical icon was also the recipient of the 2007 Barbados Music Awards Lifetime Achievement Award. Authorities in Bolivia have rejected the violence created by opposition parties against President Evo Morales and how the protests have been shown in the media.
In the city of Santa Cruz, a student protest led to the attack of 3 state institutions. The most severe damages happened in the electoral court, where a fire was started. The country's opposition assures that these acts are started by government-backed intruders.
These actions seek to generate violence, and they come from the government, which plans to discredit these marches, which have always been peaceful.
Government Minister Carlos Romero has rejected these accusations and has called them an example of the opposition-led manipulation in social media and in the press. He cited the use of a picture of one of the violent protesters who, allegedly, had a Che Guevara tattoo on his shoulder.
They are using a citizen with an alleged tattoo of Che Guevara. Look, this is not Che Guevara. This is for sure Charles Manson. They have obviously modified the image with some retouching for social media.
The government minister blamed the violence of fascist groups that hire young felons to act with a covered face, calling this practice a cowardly act from the political opposition.
These are the same violent people. They are radical fascist groups, separatists, racists. These are people that make it difficult to live in Bolivia. They don't want to share their collective life with people of color or people with an indigenous last name.
The violent acts in Santa Cruz were rejected by institutions like the Ombudsman's Office, lawmakers, and social organizations that back the government.
We are in a state of emergency headed by the Bolivian working class. The rest of participating organizations are also in a state of emergency.
The opposition is now mobilizing against the candidature of President Evo Morales for next year's general elections. This, despite the fact that it was the Constitutional Court that allowed him to run over a year ago.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. The man responsible for the Strasbourg terror attack has been killed by French police. 29-year-old Cherif Chekat was fatally shot in an eastern city of France after a 2-day manhunt. He reportedly fired on officers who returned fire. Chekat was accused of killing at least 3 people and wounding several others in an attack near the Strasbourg Christmas market. Europe's political storm continues to engulf some of its leaders, but the odds were in favor of French President Emmanuel Macron, who won a no-confidence motion brought against him. The motion only received 70 votes, well short of the 289 theirs hold. Representatives from the French Communist Party, the Socialist Party, and the far-left populist movement united to table the motion. However, those lawmakers compromised only about 10% of the National Assembly, making it extremely unlikely that Macron would have lost. U.S. President Donald Trump's inauguration spending is now under criminal investigation by federal prosecutors. They're trying to determine whether funds were misspent and whether major donors were offered access to the new administration in exchange for money. The probe partly arises out of material seized in the federal investigation of former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen's business dealings. Allegedly, millions of dollars were not properly accounted for, potentially violating federal laws.
I will faithfully execute.
And the United States Senate has approved a resolution to curb Saudi support and condemn the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The War Powers resolution would withhold U.S. military assistance to Saudis in Yemen. The measure essentially rebukes U.S. President Donald Trump's response to the death of Khashoggi and is one of several legislative efforts to target the Crown Prince and the Trump administration's policy towards Saudi Arabia.
That just because you're our ally, you cannot kill with impunity.
A gunman in Palestine has killed 2 people and injured 2 others in the occupied West Bank. The shooting took place near the illegal Israeli settlement of Ofra in the central West Bank. According to Israeli forces, the gunman was shot by an armed passerby. The attack happened a few hours after Israeli security forces killed 3 Palestinians in overnight raids. Meanwhile, the Israeli ministry has surrounded the city of Ramallah and closed all entry and exit points. And earlier we spoke to Stevan Barbour, an independent journalist based in Ramallah, who gave us the latest update on the situation.
The West Bank, I think Netanyahu, it's given the green light to the settlers to do whatever they want. It started with attacks in the northern West Bank city of Nablus, and then it was a retaliation by Palestinians Sunday, and then the next day the military came into Ramallah on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they took the video cameras from the Palestinian Authority's official news agency, Wafa, and they took the video out and seized the building, and then they had clashes with different Palestinians that day.
Sri Lanka's Supreme Court has ruled as unconstitutional President Maithripala Sirisena's decision to sack the Prime Minister, dissolve Parliament, and hold snap elections. A 7-judge bench of the court said the President does not have the power to dissolve Parliament at will. Sri Lanka has been in political crisis since October, when the President abruptly sacked the then Prime Minister. A South African court has ruled that former President Jacob Zuma must pay for the legal costs of criminal prosecutions brought against him while in office. The ruling means Zuma will have to pay legal costs dating back to 2005. The country's main opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, dragged Zuma to court to force him to pay back over $1 million in taxpayers' money. The party claims he used these funds to fight personal legal battles. And South Africa is holding for a green rush. The country held its first cannabis industry exhibition since the private use of cannabis was ruled legal. From medicinal oils, dog treats to clothing made of pure hemp, visitors were introduced to a wide range of cannabis-derived products at the trade show held in Pretoria. The country's top court decriminalized private use and cultivation of cannabis in September 2018, and now entrepreneurs hope the region can become a hotspot for the cannabis industry.
It's an emerging industry, and we're sitting on the apex of it. We're just sitting on the tip of the iceberg. Next 20 years, this industry is like this worldwide. It's the green rush that's on, and everybody's jumping on it. We were big.
And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.